I found the photos on Madison's phone purely by accident. It was a Saturday morning, and she was in the shower, her phone buzzing incessantly on the nightstand. We had a rule about respecting each other's privacy, but something about the persistent notifications gnawed at me. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked up her phone. What I saw next shattered my world. The first photo was of Madison at a restaurant, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. The second was a bit more intimate, her hand resting on his, both of them smiling. The third one left no room for doubt. They were kissing. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing the betrayal I felt. This was more than just a fling. This was a full-blown affair. Madison and I met 5 years ago at a charity gala. She was radiant, the kind of woman who could light up a room with just a smile. I was smitten from the moment I saw her, and it seemed she felt the same. We were inseparable, and within a year, we were married. Our wedding was the stuff of fairy tales, a lavish celebration of our love. We traveled the world, dined at the finest restaurants, and lived a life most people only dream of. But as I stared at those photos, all those memories felt tainted. I couldn't understand how she could throw away everything we had for someone else. My mind raced with questions and doubts. Had she ever truly loved me, or was it always about the money? I tried to shake off the shock and think rationally. Confronting her immediately would be a mistake. I needed to know the full extent of her betrayal before making any moves. There was a chance this was all a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew that was just wishful thinking. Later that day, I called my best friend Michael. He had always been a voice of reason in my life, and I needed his perspective. As I relayed the details, his silence was deafening. When he finally spoke, his words were careful but honest. "I hate to say this, Jack, but I've seen her with another guy too. A few weeks ago, at a restaurant downtown. They looked pretty cozy." His revelation was the final nail in the coffin. I decided to hire a private investigator to follow Madison and gather concrete evidence of her infidelity. If she was betraying me, I needed to know every sordid detail. The following week felt like an eternity. I went through the motions of daily life, but my mind was consumed with thoughts of Madison and her lover. When the investigator finally called with his report, it confirmed my worst fears. There were photos, videos, and even audio recordings of their conversations. The evidence was irrefutable. As I sat in my office, staring at the damning proof, a cold resolve washed over me. Madison had used me for my wealth, deceived me, and shattered my heart. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Instead of succumbing to anger and despair, I began to plan my revenge. I would strip her of everything she held dear, just as she had done to me. The first step was to secure my finances. I transferred assets to trust accounts and ensured my legal protection. Madison wouldn't get a penny more than she deserved. Next, I started documenting every detail, preparing for the inevitable confrontation and divorce proceedings. The evidence I had would ensure she walked away with nothing. In the quiet of my study, surrounded by evidence of Madison's betrayal, I felt a grim determination. This was just the beginning. She thought she could play me for a fool, but she was about to learn that I wasn't someone to be underestimated. The game was on, and I was ready to play. 5 years ago, life was very different. I remember the night I first met Madison vividly. It was a charity gala for a children's hospital, a grand event held in the city's most prestigious hotel. The room was filled with people dressed in their finest, the air buzzing with conversation and laughter. I was there more out of obligation than interest, representing my company as a major donor. Little did I know, that night would change my life. I first saw her across the room, laughing at something her friend said. She was stunning, long blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that seemed to make the room brighter. She caught me staring, and instead of looking away, she held my gaze and smiled. That smile was my undoing. I found myself walking towards her, my heart pounding in my chest. We struck up a conversation, and it felt like we had known each other forever. She was charming, intelligent, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. By the end of the evening, I was completely smitten. We exchanged numbers, and from that moment on, we were inseparable. Our relationship moved quickly. We went on romantic getaways, shared countless dinners, and spent almost every weekend together. Madison had an effortless way of making everything seem more vibrant and exciting. When I proposed to her a year later, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Our wedding was a fairy tale come to life. Held in a picturesque vineyard, it was an extravagant affair attended by family and friends. Madison looked breathtaking in her designer gown, and I couldn't believe my luck. The vows we exchanged felt genuine and heartfelt, a promise of eternal love and devotion. For a time, our life together was perfect. We traveled the world, visiting exotic locations and experiencing different cultures. From the beaches of Bali to the historic streets of Rome, we lived a life most people could only dream of. Our home was a beautiful estate in the suburbs, complete with a pool, tennis court, and everything else one could wish for. On the surface, we were the picture of happiness. But looking back now, I can see the signs were there all along. Madison loved the finer things in life, the expensive dinners, the luxury vacations, the high-end fashion. At the time, I saw it as her enjoying the fruits of our success, but now I realize it was more than that. She was drawn to the lifestyle my wealth provided. As I reflect on those years, I can't help but feel a pang of bitterness. How much of it was real? Did she ever truly love me? Or was it all an act to secure her place in a life of luxury? These questions gnaw at me, but I push them aside. The past cannot be changed, and dwelling on it will only hold me back. Despite everything, there were moments of genuine connection. Times when her laughter was infectious, and her touch felt like the most comforting thing in the world. It's those memories that make her betrayal all the more painful. But I can't afford to be sentimental now. I need to stay focused on my plan. The revelations of the past few weeks have been a harsh wake-up call. The woman I thought I knew, the life I thought we had, it was all a lie. But instead of wallowing in sorrow, I choose to channel my pain into action. Madison will pay for what she has done, and I will ensure she doesn't take anything more from me. The first step of my plan is already in motion. My finances are secure, and I've gathered the evidence needed to ensure she walks away with nothing. The next steps will require patience and precision. Madison thinks she's clever, but she has no idea what's coming. This is only the beginning. The first hint that something was amiss came about a year ago. Madison had started going out more often, claiming it was for work or meeting up with friends. At first, I didn't think much of it. She had always been social, and her career demanded a lot of networking. But the frequency of her outings began to increase, and she started coming home later and later. One night, she came home after midnight, reeking of alcohol and perfume. I asked her how the evening went, and she gave me a vague answer about a long business dinner. Her eyes avoided mine, and there was a nervousness in her voice that set off alarm bells. But I didn't push her for details. I wanted to trust her, to believe that she was telling the truth. As the weeks passed, her behavior grew more erratic. She became secretive with her phone, often stepping out of the room to take calls or respond to messages with a sly smile. I noticed that she would quickly change the subject whenever I asked about her day. It was as if she was trying to keep me at a distance. My suspicions grew stronger when I overheard a phone conversation she had one evening. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone of her voice was different, softer, more intimate. When I asked her who she was talking to, she brushed it off, saying it was just a friend from work. I wanted to believe her, but something in my gut told me she was lying. The final straw came when my best friend, Michael, told me he had seen Madison with another man at a restaurant downtown. They were holding hands and laughing, looking every bit like a couple in love. Michael said he didn't want to interfere in our marriage, but he felt I needed to know the truth. Hearing this from Michael was devastating. I trusted him implicitly, and if he said he saw something, I believed him. I decided I couldn't ignore the signs any longer. I had to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. That's when I decided to hire a private investigator. Hiring a private investigator was not an easy decision. It felt like a betrayal of the trust that should exist in a marriage. But I needed answers. I needed to know if my suspicions were justified or if I was being paranoid. The investigator, a seasoned professional named Joe, assured me that he would get to the bottom of things discreetly. Joe's first report came a week later, and it was damning. Madison was meeting with the same man regularly, a man named Ryan. They frequented various places around the city, restaurants, bars, and even a few secluded parks. The photos Joe provided left no room for doubt. They were often seen holding hands, hugging, and kissing. Each image felt like a knife to my heart. In one of the videos, Madison and Ryan were sitting in a cafe, talking in hushed tones. Joe had managed to capture some of their conversation. They talked about plans, about places they wanted to visit together. Hearing her speak about these plans with someone else, plans that should have been ours, was unbearable. I realized then that Madison's affair was not a fleeting mistake. It was a calculated betrayal. She had another life, another man, and she was playing me for a fool. The depth of her deceit was staggering. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a burning desire for revenge. Joe continued to gather evidence over the next few weeks. Each report was a fresh wound, but it also steeled my resolve. I would not let Madison get away with this. She thought she could have it all, the security of my wealth and the thrill of her affair. But she was about to learn a harsh lesson. I started to prepare for the confrontation. I collected all the evidence Joe had gathered, organizing it into a comprehensive file. I also began the process of securing my finances, moving assets into trusts, and ensuring that Madison would not be able to claim anything in the event of a divorce. With each step I took, I felt more in control. The shock and pain were still there, but they were now accompanied by a clear sense of purpose. Madison had underestimated me. She thought I would be too blind with love to see the truth, but I saw everything now, and I was ready to act. The game was on, and I was playing to win. The day after I confronted Madison, I felt a sense of clarity. The shock and initial pain were still there, but I now had a clear path ahead of me. I spent the morning with my lawyer, Jennifer, finalizing the steps to secure my finances. Every asset was carefully transferred to trust accounts, ensuring that Madison would not get more than what was legally required. The next step was to gather the physical evidence Joe had collected and prepare for the legal battle ahead. I meticulously organized every photo, video, and document into a comprehensive file. Each piece of evidence was another nail in the coffin of Madison's deceit. My mind was racing with thoughts and emotions, but I knew I had to stay focused. This was just the beginning. I spent hours on the phone with Jennifer, discussing the details of the divorce proceedings and how we could leverage the evidence to ensure Madison walked away with nothing. Her infidelity was our ace in the hole. When the paperwork was ready, I made sure to serve Madison at a time when she would least expect it. She received the divorce papers at her office, in front of her colleagues. The look of shock and humiliation on her face was almost satisfying, but I knew this was just the start. Madison tried to reach out to me several times, but I ignored her calls and texts. I needed to stay strong and not let her manipulate me anymore. My focus was on protecting my future and ensuring she paid for her betrayal. The legal battle began in earnest a few weeks later. Madison, of course, hired a high-profile attorney, hoping to secure a significant portion of my wealth. However, the evidence I had gathered was overwhelming, and our prenuptial agreement was airtight. Jennifer was confident we would come out on top. The first hearing was tense. Madison sat across from me, looking fragile and defeated. Her lawyer tried to paint a sympathetic picture, but the judge was not swayed. When Jennifer presented the evidence of Madison's infidelity, the court was visibly taken aback. Photos and videos of her with Ryan played out in front of everyone, leaving no room for doubt about her actions. Madison's defense was weak. Her lawyer tried to argue that the affair was a result of my neglect and that she deserved compensation for the emotional distress. But Jennifer was relentless, countering every point with precision and clarity. The facts were on our side, and it was clear the judge saw through Madison's attempts to manipulate the situation. As the hearings continued, the strain began to show on Madison. Her confident demeanor crumbled as the reality of her situation set in. She had underestimated me, thinking I would be too devastated to fight back. But I was stronger than she anticipated, and I was determined to see this through to the end. In the final hearing, the judge ruled in our favor. Madison would receive only what was stipulated in the prenup, a fraction of what she had hoped for. The majority of my assets remained protected, and she was left with a stark realization of the consequences of her betrayal. Leaving the courthouse that day, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The battle was over, and I had won. Madison's deceit had cost her dearly, and I was finally free from her grasp. Now, I could begin to rebuild my life, stronger and wiser than before. With the legal battle behind me, I turned my attention to the social fallout. Madison and I had a wide circle of mutual friends, many of whom were unaware of the turmoil that had unfolded. I decided it was time to set the record straight and ensure that everyone knew the truth. I hosted a small gathering at my house, inviting our closest friends. It was a somber affair, far from the lively parties we used to throw. As everyone settled in, I stood before them and shared the story of Madison's betrayal. I showed them the evidence, laying bare the extent of her deceit. The reaction was a mix of shock, sympathy, and outrage. Some friends couldn't believe what they were seeing, while others offered their support and comfort. Michael, always my rock, stood by my side, reinforcing my narrative and making sure everyone understood the gravity of Madison's actions. In the days that followed, word spread quickly. Madison became a pariah in our social circle, her reputation tarnished by her actions. She tried to reach out to some friends, but most of them had already made up their minds. They saw her for what she was, a manipulative woman who had used me for her gain. While it was painful to relive the betrayal, it was also cathartic. I felt a sense of closure, knowing that the truth was out and that Madison could no longer manipulate our friends. It was another step towards rebuilding my life and moving on from the past. With Madison out of my life, I was finally able to focus on myself. I threw myself into work, taking on new projects and challenges that reignited my passion for my career. The distraction was welcome, and the success I found helped restore my confidence. I also began to explore new hobbies and interests. I took up painting, something I had always wanted to try but never had the time for. It became a therapeutic outlet, allowing me to express my emotions and find peace in the creative process. I started attending a local gym regularly, getting back into shape and feeling healthier than I had in years. My social life also began to flourish again. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones, enjoying the freedom and spontaneity that came with my newfound single life. I even started dating again, taking things slow and allowing myself to enjoy the journey without any pressure. One evening, at a gallery opening, I met Laura. She was intelligent and kind, and had a warmth about her that was immediately comforting. We struck up a conversation about the art on display, and before I knew it, we were laughing and sharing stories over a glass of wine. It was refreshing to meet someone so genuine and down to earth. As our relationship developed, I found myself opening up to her about my past. Laura listened with empathy and understanding, never judging or pushing me to move faster than I was comfortable with. She became a source of strength and support, helping me heal from the wounds Madison had left behind. In Laura, I found a partner who appreciated me for who I was, not for what I could provide. Our connection was based on mutual respect and genuine affection, something I had been missing for a long time. It was a stark contrast to my relationship with Madison, and it made me realize just how much I had been settling for less. The future looked bright, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful. I had overcome the betrayal and heartbreak, emerging stronger and wiser. With Laura by my side, I was ready to embrace the new beginnings and build a life filled with love, trust, and happiness. As the months passed, my relationship with Laura deepened. We spent countless evenings exploring the city, discovering new restaurants, attending concerts, and simply enjoying each other's company. Laura brought a sense of joy and spontaneity back into my life, something I hadn't realized I had been missing. One evening, as we walked along the river, Laura turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jack, there's something I need to tell you," she began, her voice tinged with seriousness. My heart skipped a beat, but I nodded, encouraging her to continue. "I know about Madison," she said softly. "I heard some things from mutual friends, and I want you to know that it doesn't change how I feel about you. If anything, it makes me admire your strength even more." Her words were a balm to my soul. The fact that she knew about my past and still chose to be with me spoke volumes about her character. I pulled her into a hug, feeling a wave of gratitude and love wash over me. At that moment, I knew that Laura was someone special, someone I could truly trust and build a future with. As our relationship blossomed, I also continued to focus on my personal growth. I attended therapy sessions to work through the lingering emotions from my marriage with Madison. My therapist, Dr. Turner, helped me understand the patterns that had led to my previous relationship's downfall and how to avoid them in the future. It was a transformative experience, and I felt more empowered and self-aware than ever before. With Laura by my side and my newfound clarity, I began to truly heal. We started talking about our future together, discussing dreams and aspirations that filled me with hope. It was a stark contrast to the uncertainty and pain of the past, and I embraced it wholeheartedly. One crisp autumn afternoon, as I was walking through a local park, I spotted a familiar figure sitting on a bench. It was Madison. She looked different, more subdued, almost frail. Our eyes met, and for a moment neither of us moved. Then, with a resigned sigh, I walked over and sat down beside her. "Jack," she said softly, her voice a shadow of its former self. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I replied, unsure of what to say. There was a heavy silence between us, filled with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. Finally, Madison broke the silence. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know I hurt you, and I regret it deeply." Her apology caught me off guard. I had prepared myself for anger and bitterness, but not for this. I took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Madison, I appreciate your apology. What you did was incredibly painful, and it took me a long time to move on. But I have moved on." She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I understand. I just needed to tell you that. I needed you to know that I realized what I lost." We sat in silence for a few more minutes, the weight of our shared history hanging between us. Finally, I stood up, ready to leave. "I hope you find peace, Madison. We both deserve to be happy." As I walked away, I felt a sense of closure. Seeing Madison again, hearing her apology, and realizing that I had truly moved on was liberating. It was the final piece of the puzzle, allowing me to fully embrace my new life. I returned home that evening to find Laura waiting for me. I told her about my encounter with Madison, and she listened with her usual empathy and understanding. As I held Laura in my arms, I knew that I had found something real and lasting. Madison was now a part of my past, and my future was with Laura. With each passing day, my love for Laura grew stronger. We continued to build our lives together, filled with trust, respect, and genuine affection. The darkness of the past had given way to a bright, hopeful future, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. After my unexpected encounter with Madison, I realized how much I had healed and how important it was to maintain that sense of closure. My relationship with Laura was flourishing, but rebuilding trust after such a betrayal was not without its challenges. I was determined to make this new chapter of my life different and better. Laura and I decided to take a short vacation to the mountains. We rented a cozy cabin, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The serene environment provided the perfect backdrop for us to reconnect and focus on each other. We spent our days hiking, exploring the local area, and enjoying quiet evenings by the fire. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Laura turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Jack, I know it hasn't been easy for you to trust again after everything with Madison. I just want you to know that I'm here for you no matter what." Her words touched me deeply. I took her hand and looked into her eyes. "Laura, you've been my rock through all of this. I can't express how much you mean to me. I know I've been cautious, but it's only because I don't want to make the same mistakes again." She smiled softly. "I understand, and I appreciate your honesty. Trust takes time, but I believe in us." Our conversation that night strengthened our bond. It reminded me that despite the past, I had found someone who truly cared for me and wanted to build a future together. It was a turning point, and from that moment on, I felt more at ease and more willing to open up and share my deepest thoughts and fears with Laura. With my personal life on a positive trajectory, I also began to focus more on my career. The company had been doing well, and my dedication and hard work were starting to pay off. I received an unexpected call from the CEO, Mr. Anderson, inviting me to his office for a meeting. "Jack," he began, once I was seated in his spacious office, "I've been very impressed with your work over the past year. Your dedication and innovative ideas have not gone unnoticed. We're expanding, and I'd like to offer you a promotion to Vice President of Operations." I was taken aback. This was a significant step up, a recognition of my efforts and potential. "Thank you, Mr. Anderson. This is an incredible opportunity. I'm honored." He nodded, a satisfied smile on his face. "I believe you have the vision and leadership skills to help take this company to the next level. We'll discuss the details, but I wanted to let you know personally. Congratulations, Jack." As I left his office, I felt a surge of pride and excitement. This promotion was a testament to my hard work and resilience. It was also a new beginning, a chance to further prove myself and make a difference in the company. I shared the news with Laura that evening, and she was overjoyed. "Jack, this is amazing. You deserve this so much. I'm so proud of you." Her support meant the world to me. We celebrated with a quiet dinner at home, talking about the future and the possibilities that lay ahead. With this new role, I felt more confident and empowered. It was a fresh start in many ways, a chance to build a better life, both personally and professionally. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I took on new responsibilities, worked closely with different departments, and began implementing changes that I believed would drive growth and efficiency. The challenge was exhilarating, and I thrived in the fast-paced environment. As I settled into my new role, I realized how far I had come since discovering Madison's betrayal. I had faced my darkest moments, but with the support of those around me and my determination to rebuild, I had emerged stronger. The future looked bright, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms, alongside the woman I loved. With my promotion to Vice President of Operations, my financial situation improved significantly. I had always been careful with my finances, but now, with increased responsibilities and a higher salary, I saw an opportunity to secure my future even further. I scheduled a meeting with my financial advisor, Tom, to discuss long-term investment strategies. "Jack, this promotion opens up a lot of new opportunities for you," Tom said, as we reviewed my portfolio. "It's time to think about diversifying your investments and planning for the future." We discussed various options, including real estate, stocks, and retirement accounts. I decided to allocate a portion of my increased income towards building a more robust investment portfolio. This included purchasing a few rental properties, investing in promising startups, and maximizing my contributions to retirement funds. Tom also suggested setting up a trust fund for potential future children. It was a sobering reminder that I needed to plan for all aspects of my life, including those that might come with new relationships and family dynamics. Laura and I had talked about the possibility of starting a family, and this seemed like a practical step towards that future. With a solid financial plan in place, I felt more confident about my ability to provide for myself and any future family. It was another layer of security, ensuring that I would never find myself in a vulnerable position again, financially or emotionally. One crisp winter afternoon, as I was wrapping up a meeting at work, I received an unexpected call from my assistant. "Jack, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." I frowned, wondering who it could be. "I'll be right there," I replied, heading towards the lobby. As I approached, I saw Madison standing there, looking more disheveled and desperate than I had ever seen her. "Jack, please, I need to talk to you," she said, her voice trembling. I hesitated but then nodded, leading her to a quiet conference room. "What do you want, Madison?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. She took a deep breath, tears welling up in her eyes. "Jack, I'm in trouble. After our divorce, things went downhill. Ryan left me, and I've been struggling ever since. I lost my job, and I have nowhere else to turn." I listened silently, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me wanted to turn her away, but another part felt a pang of sympathy for the woman I had once loved. "What do you expect me to do, Madison? I know I don't deserve anything from you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I thought you should know what happened. I'm not asking for money or anything like that. I don't know. I needed to tell you." I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "Madison, I appreciate you coming here to tell me this, but you need to understand that our lives have moved on. I have moved on. You need to find a way to do the same." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I understand, Jack. I do. I'm sorry for everything." As she left, I felt a strange sense of closure. Seeing Madison in such a vulnerable state made me realize how far I had come and how much I had grown. It also reinforced my resolve to continue building a positive future for myself and those I cared about. That evening, I shared the encounter with Laura. She listened patiently, her hand resting on mine. "You did the right thing, Jack. It's important to have closure, but it's also important to protect yourself from the past." Her words resonated with me. I knew that with Laura by my side and my newfound strength, I could face whatever challenges came my way. The future was uncertain, but I felt ready to embrace it, knowing that I had the support and love of someone who truly cared for me. After the encounter with Madison, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. It was as if a chapter of my life had finally been closed, allowing me to fully focus on building a future with Laura. Our relationship continued to deepen, and we began discussing more concrete plans for our life together. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of our apartment, watching the city lights flicker, Laura brought up the topic of moving in together. Jack, I've been thinking, maybe it's time we find a place that's ours, a home we can build together. Her suggestion filled me with warmth. I think that's a great idea, Laura. Let's start looking for a place that we both love. Over the next few weeks, we toured several properties searching for the perfect home. We wanted a place that reflected both our personalities and where we could envision our future. Finally, we found it. A charming house in a quiet neighborhood, with a beautiful garden and plenty of space for us to grow. The day we moved in was filled with excitement and anticipation. We spent hours unpacking, arranging furniture, and making the house our own. Each room became a canvas for our shared dreams and aspirations. It was a fresh start, and the future felt brighter than ever. As we settled into our new home, we also began discussing the possibility of starting a family. It was a big step, but one we both felt ready for. The idea of raising children in a loving, supportive environment was something we both cherished. Our conversations were filled with dreams of what our future family would look like, the values we wanted to instill in our children, and the life we wanted to create together. It was a beautiful and hopeful time, one that brought us even closer. A few months after moving into our new home, Laura and I received the most wonderful news. She was pregnant. The joy and excitement we felt were indescribable. We spent the following weeks preparing for the arrival of our baby, transforming one of the spare rooms into a cozy nursery and reading every parenting book we could find. Laura's pregnancy brought us even closer. We attended prenatal classes together, went to doctor's appointments, and spent countless evenings talking about our hopes and dreams for our child. It was a time of anticipation and love, and we cherished every moment. One evening, as we were sitting in the nursery, Laura turned to me with a radiant smile. Jack, I can't wait to see you as a father. You're going to be amazing. Her words filled me with pride and a sense of responsibility. And you'll be the best mother, Laura. I know it. As Laura's due date approached, our excitement grew. We made sure everything was ready for the baby's arrival, from the crib to the tiniest pair of socks. We were nervous, of course, but also filled with an overwhelming sense of joy and anticipation. Finally, the day arrived. In the early hours of a crisp spring morning, Laura went into labor. We rushed to the hospital, our hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. After several intense hours, our baby girl, Lily, was born. Holding her for the first time was the most profound moment of my life. Her tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and I knew that everything we had been through had led us to this perfect moment. Laura and I were overwhelmed with love and gratitude as we gazed at our beautiful daughter. She was a symbol of our new beginning, a testament to the strength of our love and resilience. Bringing Lily home was a joyous occasion. Our house, once filled with the quiet anticipation of her arrival, now echoed with the sweet sounds of a newborn. Our days and nights were filled with feedings, diaper changes, and endless moments of awe as we watched our daughter grow and change. As we navigated the challenges and joys of parenthood, Laura and I grew even closer. We were a team, supporting each other through sleepless nights and celebrating every little milestone. Our love had created this beautiful new life, and we were committed to giving Lily the best possible start. Looking at my family, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Despite the pain and betrayal of the past, I had found happiness and love again. Laura and Lily were my world, and together, we were building a future filled with hope, joy, and endless possibilities. As the years passed, life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Laura and I watched Lily grow, each day bringing new joys and challenges. Our home was filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of a family that had weathered storms and emerged stronger. One evening, as Laura and I were putting Lily to bed, she looked up at us with her big, curious eyes. "Daddy, tell me a story," she said, her voice filled with the innocence of childhood. I smiled and sat down beside her. "What kind of story would you like, sweetheart?" "Tell me about when you and Mommy met," she said, snuggling under her blankets. I glanced at Laura, who nodded encouragingly. "All right," I began. "Once upon a time, there was a man named Jack who met a wonderful woman named Laura. They met at an art gallery and talked all night about paintings, music, and their dreams. As I recounted the story of our meeting, I felt a deep sense of contentment. Our journey had been anything but easy, but it had led us to this moment, to this family we had built together. After Lily fell asleep, Laura and I sat on the porch, enjoying the quiet of the evening. The stars above us seemed to shine brighter, a reflection of the peace and happiness we felt. "Jack, I can't believe how far we've come," Laura said, her voice filled with emotion. "From that first night at the gallery to now, with Lily in our home, it's been an incredible journey." I took her hand, feeling the warmth and love between us. "It has been, and I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge, every hardship, it brought us here, to this life we've built together." Laura rested her head on my shoulder. "I'm so grateful for you, for everything we've created, and I'm excited for the future, whatever it may bring." We sat in comfortable silence, reflecting on our journey. The pain and betrayal of the past were distant memories, overshadowed by the love and happiness that now filled our lives. The next morning, as I was getting ready for work, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Madison's sister, Jane. Her voice was solemn as she delivered the news that Madison had passed away. She had been battling a serious illness for the past year, something she had kept private. I felt a wave of mixed emotions. Despite everything, Madison had been a significant part of my life. Her betrayal had led to one of the darkest periods I had ever experienced, but it had also pushed me to rebuild and find true happiness. Jane asked if I would attend the funeral. "I think she would have wanted you to be there," she said gently. After discussing it with Laura, I decided to go. It was a chance to pay my respects and find a final sense of closure. The funeral was a small, somber affair, attended by a few close friends and family. As I stood by her grave, I felt a sense of finality. Madison's chapter in my life was truly over. I returned home to Laura and Lily, feeling a renewed sense of gratitude for the life I had now. The past was behind me, and the future was filled with endless possibilities. That evening, as we sat together as a family, I looked at Laura and Lily and felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Life had come full circle. I had faced betrayal, found love again, and built a future filled with hope and joy. The journey had been long and often difficult, but it had led me to this moment of contentment and fulfillment. As I held Laura and Lily close, I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together, with love and resilience guiding our way.